No D.
Unfortunately for the WNBA, that somewhat decent attempt at comedy from Elle Duncan, she, her, that desperate plea for toxic masculinity from Elle Duncan, that was the highlight of the weekend for the WNBA. The rest of the weekend was filled with protest. It was filled with constant whining, constant complaining, and in between the whining and protesting was a 2-hour event that came nowhere close to resembling professional basketball. You know, WNBA players, they actually share a lot of commonalities with Elle Duncan. One of those commonalities being they both live in this world of delusion. They both inhabit this world of make-believe. According to Elle Duncan, she is one of the biggest stars at the worldwide leader in woke. Well, Casey, that's not true. Elle Duncan has never said that about herself. Yeah, that might be true. She hasn't said it verbally, but if you look at her actions, Elle Duncan believes she's a big star. I am important. I'm Elle Duncan. I drive a Rubbermaid broom. Outside of Stephen A. Smith and Pat McAfee, name another person at ESPN that can make a joke about Wiener and get away with it. Sam Ponder got fired for wanting to keep Wiener out of the women's locker room. But when Elle Duncan makes a joke about the lack of Wiener in the WNBA, a point that some would refute, for decades there's been speculation that there was too much D in the dump. But when Elle Duncan makes a joke about the Wang, it's complete silence from ESPN. And it's not because Elle Duncan is a big star. She is nowhere near the level of Stephen A. Smith and Pat McAfee. Elle Duncan is allowed to get away with it because ESPN is afraid to fire her. There are reports that Elle Duncan is a major problem behind the scenes at ESPN. She complained to management because they added Malika Andrews to their WNBA coverage. They took away WNBA games from Elle Duncan and gave them to Malika Andrews. Most people would consider that a blessing. Who in the hell would want to cover more WNBA games? Me personally, I think ESPN gave Elle Duncan that doofus show vibe check as a way to placate her ego. They gave her a show that no one asked for. They gave her a show that no one is watching, hoping it would silence her incessant complaining. It's similar to what we often see in the WNBA dump. Players constantly complaining and the diva of dump divas Kat Engelbert giving in to their demands. They complained about the scooters that were provided to travel to road games. Kat upgrades their accommodations to the Greyhound bus. They complained about the bus. Kat upgrades to coach seats on anti-American airlines, the proud partner of the WNBA. They complained about commercial flights. Kat Engelbert gives them chartered flights that this dump cannot afford. Just like Elle Duncan at ESPN, no matter how much you give WNBA players, it is never enough to satisfy their entitlement. WNBA players believe they're owed something. Just like Elle Duncan, WNBA players believe they are stars. But earlier this afternoon, players in the WNBA were given another harsh dose of reality. Ratings for the All-Star Game were released, and the ratings once again proved that this dump of a league is nothing without Caitlin Clark. Now, most of the media, they chose to provide honest reports of WNBA ratings. But imagine my surprise when I noticed that ESPN once again decided to polish the turd. Make sure to like and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter at KC_BTL84. Link to the second channel is in the description below. Earlier today on the second channel, talked about Caitlin Clark and her ability to ignore the criticism she receives on social media. For reasons unknown, Caitlin Clark agreed to be interviewed by the inspiration of prepubescent boys, Meg Rapinoe. I did you guys a favor, and I made sure that Meg Rapinoe was not speaking in the clip that I shared. But during the interview, Caitlin Clark brilliantly explained why social media doesn't matter because social media isn't real, which is advice that Angel Reese and other players in the WNBA need to listen to. They think they're big stars because they receive hundreds of likes from bots on social media. But as Caitlin Clark said, and Uncle KC has said this countless times, social media is not real. So if you haven't already, click the link in the description below, subscribe to the second channel. Headline at ESPN. WNBA scored historic viewership during All-Star Weekend. These elite athletes continue to break records. Woohoo! Yes, yes, yes. According to ESPN, ratings were up 89% Friday night for the Lack of Skills Challenge. 1.3 million people, mostly under the age of 35, they tuned in Friday night to watch skilled athletes dunk with the assistance of a ladder and to see the exciting three-point shooting contest. I thought it was interesting that a sizable portion of the audience was under the age of 35, meaning most of the audience was kids, young adults. It makes sense because adults, grown-ups, we know better than to waste a Friday night watching a skills competition in the WNBA. But all kidding aside, 1.3 million is a good number, especially considering the fact that Caitlin Clark was not participating. Saturday night was the main event. Even though the only star in the league was unable to participate due to injury, the WNBA still referred to the event Saturday night as the All-Star Game. According to ESPN, this is unbelievable! I told you the W was more than one player. This was a statement game as these megastars in the WNBA increased ratings by 158%. What? Excuse me? 158%? Let me make sure I'm understanding ESPN correctly. You're telling me without Caitlin Clark, the unknowns in the WNBA increased ratings for the All-Star Game by 158% when compared to last year? Keep in mind, last year was Caitlin Clark's first appearance in the All-Star Game, and she actually played. Matter of fact, everyone selected to be an All-Star played last year, which is something that they definitely didn't do this year. That pathetic display Saturday night was an embarrassment, even to pretend basketball. But anyway, you're telling me, without the Roo from Waterloo, the WNBA increased ratings by 158%? I'm just having a hard time believing that, especially coming from a source like ESPN. I look down the list of people I trust. There's only 2 letters on this list, and I'm pretty sure K and C are not included in ESPN. Saturday night, the WNBA All-Star Game drew 2.2 million viewers. Last year, they drew 3.4 million. Someone please explain to me how that is an increase of 158%, because according to my calculations, that is a 36% decrease. Well, Uncle KC, ESPN was comparing this year's All-Star Game to 2023. Why? Why in the hell would they do that? I'll tell you why ESPN did this. This is another example of the mainstream media protecting the WNBA. This is another example of ESPN polishing the turd with this dump of a league. I'll be honest with you, which is something that ESPN is clearly refusing to do. Without Caitlin Clark, 2.2 million is a good number for the WNBA All-Star Game. Yes, it's a 36% decrease. Yes, it's a massive decline without Caitlin Clark, but that does not mean the ratings are bad. So I'm struggling to understand why ESPN felt the need to polish the turd. I'm struggling to understand why ESPN felt the need to lie to us. This is one of the biggest problems right now with the WNBA. This is one of the reasons the entitlement is completely out of control. You know what's one of the main causes of entitlement? A complete lack of accountability. For years, WNBA players have acted with impunity. Colin Kaepernick starts kneeling for the national anthem. He gets blackballed from the NFL. WNBA players kneel for the national anthem. They receive praise from the media, and their commissioner doesn't do a damn thing about it. LeBron James embraces mythical racism. Other NBA players follow his lead. Instantly, NBA ratings fall into the pooper. The 2020 NBA playoffs and NBA finals least watched in the history of the league. Now, I don't give Adam Silver credit for very much, but during an interview with Rachel Nichols in the fall of 2020, Adam Silver promised that he was going to remove politics from the NBA and get back to basketball. And for the most part, Adam Silver has kept his promise. Think about it. When is the last time LeBron James has involved himself in anything political? When is the last time LeBron James complained about police brutality? Adam Silver put a stop to it. He held his players accountable. WNBA players are never held accountable for their actions. Their behavior Saturday night was an embarrassment. It was unprofessional. If I was the commissioner of this league, I would fine every player who wore those doofus t-shirts. Pay us what you owe us. Pay us what you owe us. I don't owe you a damn thing. Matter of fact, you owe me because you have never generated a single peso in profit. We can't even feed starving children based on your profit because you can't generate Ethiopian breadcrumbs either. WNBA players are not held accountable by the league. They are damn sure not held accountable by their pretend friends in the mainstream media. ESPN polishing the turd with these all-star ratings is a prime example. And they wonder why players have the audacity to demand million-dollar salaries. They wonder why the disease of entitlement is leading this dump of a league straight down the path of destruction. Give me your thoughts on this. The WNBA pulls good ratings for the All-Star Game, but for some reason, ESPN decides to lie about it. ESPN portrays the ratings as being better than they actually were. Why? Why does ESPN feel the constant need to protect the WNBA? Sound off in the comments below. I'll see you guys tomorrow.